Hello there and welcome to another tutorial with Beads Jar. I'm Natalia and today we're going to be using a simple herringbone weave to create a three-strand bracelet that is plaited, so it's tri-colour, the latest metallic colours, really pretty, and I'm going to show you how to make this and what materials you're going to need. So here are the ingredients you're going to need to make this plaited bracelet with herringbone weave. So first of all, we have our three different types of 8/0 Mayuki seed beads. We have galvanized dark coral, galvanized gold, and galvanized silver. You're going to use some super duo beads, and these are opaque violet. You're then going to need a clasp, and this is a magnetic clasp in a round bowl shape, and this is gold plated. I'm using a size 10 beading needle. I'm also using some fireline. Now I do like to use the smoke colour, but you can use whatever colour you like, and this one is £6 because that's particularly good for using with bracelets. They get a lot of wear and tear. And we're using some wire cutters just to cut the fireline. So now we've had a look at the ingredients, let's get started and make our project. So the first thing you need to do is to thread about 1 metre long length of fireline onto your needle. You're going to need a lot of fireline for this because the herringbone weave goes up and down, so it uses twice as much thread as you would normally. And so just double it over, so that you don't feel like it's really unwieldy. I'm going to thread on a stop bead. So I'm going to be working, first of all, we've got 3 colours in this bracelet today. So the galvanized copper color galvanized coral color is the color that I'm using first of all. So I'm using a gold stop bead as my stop bead so I can see that I've got a stop bead rather than it just mingling in with the design. So I've just threaded that on and knotted it on very gently. And I'm leaving about 8 to 10 centimeters of tail on the end of there because I want to use that as a thread at the end to be able to secure the piece. So then for your first pass of the starting point of your herringbone weave, you're going to thread on 4 of these 8/0 beads. So just popping those onto the thread. And so to get started, you're just going to take your needle down into the very first bead that you threaded on at the base. The needle's going downwards. And then I'm going to pull that tight. And when you pull it tight, it takes those beads into like a little square shape there. So you see you've got your thread coming out of the right hand side. And then you're going to take your needle up through the left hand 2 beads there. And what you want to do with herringbone is you always want to make sure that whenever you're starting the next row, position those properly, that your thread is coming up out of the top left hand bead. That's always our starting point. So if you ever leave it go away, come back, make sure that you start from the top left thread coming out upwards. So each line of the herringbone requires you to thread on 2 beads onto your needle. And to take your needle down through the top right hand bead, so the very top bead there, and then to always go up through the top left 2, so down through the top right one, up through the left 2. If you follow that simple formula, this is one of the few processes you can do while you're watching TV or not concentrating because it doesn't require you to do loads of counting. So 2 more beads on, down through the top right, and then up through the top left 2, and always pulling your thread as tight as you can as you go along. So you get a nice even weave. And it does build up very quickly. So let me show you what you end up with. and so we get a really nice long length of our seed beads. And you just need to make sure that that measures the total circumference of the wrist that you want to make this bracelet for. And I've done it in 2 other colours as well, because this is a tri-colour bracelet, so we've got it in the galvanised silver and the galvanised yellow gold as well. So each of them, you need to count your rows and make sure that they are all equal lengths. So the next part of our design, so I've pulled off the stop beads from the end of each of these, like that. And the first thing that I want to do is to just put the ends together. So make sure that the ends of these are sewn together. So I will do that here. I'm going to use, let me use this one. You're going to decide how you want to plait them, so which one you want in which order. I'm just going to go yellow gold, coral and silver. That's going to be my pattern. So let me just pop a needle on the end of that silver coloured strand. So I've threaded my needle onto the thread, that's the working thread that's coming out of the top of the silver bead there. And then I'm going to take my needle down into the first 2 beads of my next strand. It's just connecting those together. Just going to pick those up so you can see that more easily. Then I'm going to go back across and go back up and come out the top again. So I'm just connecting those 2 so that they're side by side. I'm going to go back down through the top 2 and across, and then up through the next row of those galvanized coral beads there. All right, so those are connected now. Just going to take that other thread out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing with the gold ones. So taking it across into the top 2 beads, and then taking my needle over to the left hand side of those gold beads, just taking that up. I'm going to take it down through the right hand 2 gold beads, and then across to the galvanized copper. I keep saying copper, it's coral, but it looks coppery. And then back across to the gold ones, like that, and then back up again. So we now have those almost tethered together really nicely. The next thing that I want to do is to get rid of the threads that are coming out of the top. So these are working threads and they haven't been secured in any way. So I'm going to put my needle onto those other working threads, the ones from the gold and the galvanized coral, and I'm going to run them through just so that we can tie them off, because we don't want them getting in the way. So I'll just add my needle to this one. So my needle is on the end of that working thread for the gold strand. So I'm just going to make sure that the other thread's not in the way as I do this. Just remove that out of my way, and then take my thread down and then across up into the copper bead there, and then I'm going to just take it down through those 2 beads. I'm going to take my needle underneath, so I'm going to assume this is the underneath of it, and just cut that thread off so it's out of my way. So I'd repeat the process. If you just need to take the working thread from the galvanized coral colored strand and to thread it through a few times, tie it off or zap it off and make sure that, that it's out of your way and you've only got one thread that you're working with. Okay, so we have our working threads, and what I'm going to do is get some super duos. So I'm going to take a super duo and just thread that on. So the first hole goes and it's aligned with that gold right hand side of the strand of beads. And I want to take my needle and then go through that first bead and the other hole of the super duo and just pull my thread. Okay, and I'm going to go across to my galvanized coral bead strand, take another super duo, go through that first hole on the super duo, and then go through the second hole on the super duo. So you're going to do that with all 3 strands. So going through my first bead there on the left hand side, and then come up through the silver first bead. So I'm basically going across to the other side. If I can just get my needle up through that bead. I might have to turn that over to do it. Those beads are really tightly squashed together. Okay, so come up through my silver one and then take another super duo and then go back down through the other hole in the super duo and the first bead there. So we've got our super duos secured on there. So that thread is coming out of the first hole in the super duo. So I'm going to take another super duo, pull it down, and then I'm going to take my needle through the hole and then down through the other super duo and into the coral bead, across to the next coral bead and up through the super duo again. And then I'm going to add another super duo and just do the same thing. So it's basically connecting them all together. Go across to your gold one so that you come out of the first hole on that super duo there and then up through, up through the super duo on top of it. I'm going to just go back down through those 2 super duos. So what I want to do is to get my needle to come up and be here in that the first hole on the second super duo, so I can end with 1 super duo, and it just makes a really nice pattern with like a little triangular effect. And then we're going to take that back down through the super duo there into the coral bead underneath. Oops. And then what you want to do is your needle really needs to be coming back up through that hole right in the center. So I'm going to just go across to the coral bead and take my needle up. So I can get it. There we go. All right. And we have our little clasp, so I'm going to open that up. Now, I probably need pliers to do it because they are very strong, those magnets. And it has a little loop on it, and that is how you're going to attach it to your bracelet. So you're going to take your needle through the loop, and then take your needle down through the super duo. You just want to go underneath it and and back up the other side, and then back through the loop again. And your needle will get stuck to the magnetic clasp. So I'm going to take my needle back through the other side of the super duo. And then we just need to make sure that we can secure this thread off. So I'm going to take it down through those coral beads there. I'm going to loop my thread over, just tie a knot, pull that tight, and go back down through the next one and just loop it, the thread over again, just to tie it off. And then use your thread zapper or your some kind of cutting implement to get rid of that excess thread. So now we have had the first part of our bracelet completed with our clasp on it, and we're ready to start plaiting this bracelet together. So what you need to do is to just get it into a position where you're happy with it, and then to just separate the pieces like that, the strands. Centralize that for you on the camera. And so I'm going to take my first strand across the pink one, my yellow gold strand across the silver, and then my coral across the gold. I'm just going to keep doing that. And make sure that everything is facing upwards so that it looks nice. Is that how it needs to be? Now you can have it as tight or as loose as you'd like. It's entirely up to you. And what would also be a really good idea is to take some pins and to just pin this in various places to make sure that it stays in place. And then you can get your beading needle and just run the thread to connect the pieces together. So I'm going to thread some fire line onto my needle, and then I'll show you just how to get started with that. And it's basically the same thing that you'll do all the way down. So I've got the starting point of this, and I want to just hold it in place while I sew. So I'm going to just put a needle through these beads so that I can keep holding them in the right position for starting this. Just make sure that I get that through the silver one. All right, so I'm going to get some fire line onto my needle. I've got about a third of a meter, and then I want to just secure the fire line. So this is going to be the front of my bracelet. I'm going to take it through that bead there, and I'm just going to tie it off. So I'm doing an overhand knot to tie this piece of fire line into the bracelet. So you want to do 2 or 3 overhand knots, just to make sure that that is very securely fastened to your bracelet. Just going to snip off that excess bit of tail there, and then I'm going to bring my needle up. Okay. So as I start to plait the piece, I want to make sure that I am sewing it together. And so wherever your thread has come out, what you then need to do is to just, now that I've got my fingers in place, I can hold that in place myself. And you're just going to go down through a bead and up through the next one, just to kind of keep them together. So you're going across, up and down like that. and that is creating the connection between them. So down through the next one. Make sure that they're aligned, and so up through my silver one there. And all that we're doing in this, almost this part of the maneuver is creating the connection between the two pieces. So I need to take my needle down and almost sew the pieces. So as they're plaiting, I'm keeping them together. So I'll show you when I get to the yellow gold beads here. So I'm going to take that, and here's where the plaiting takes place. I can take my needle down through the next bead and then work across to the middle one. So you're going to have to just take this slowly and carefully, and just as your pieces are plaiting together, just make sure that they are being connected. And I'm going to do this off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how I've got on. But it's basically just working your needle up and down through the beads carefully and slowly, and then plaiting as you go along to get the effect really perfect. So I have sewn the piece together, and I will tell you it does take a little while to do this, because you've got to be really careful that you're getting the plait really even, that things aren't sort of tighter in one place and then looser in another. So do take your time with it. And then when you get to this end, you're going to do exactly what you did at the other end, which is sewing those pieces together that are flat so that you can see each of the strands. And then you're going to attach your super duos and your clasp to that as well, using the working thread. So I'm going to go away and do that, and then we'll have the finished article to show you. So here is our finished bracelet, and we have both clasps on either end, and I've sewn that all together so it all fits really nicely. I'll just place it on my hand and you can see what it looks like. It's great using the magnetic clasp because it just snaps on really easily, but it just does have such a lovely look to it, and a very effective looking combination of those herringbone woven strands to make that plaited bracelet. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you for joining us and for watching this video. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope that you'll have a go at making this bracelet. Do leave a comment, like the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future tutorials. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.